The Hard Count is presented by BetMGM. As y'all know by now, we've teamed up with BetMGM this college football season. We'll be using their lines to make all our picks, and we'll have special offers for all of you each week. Now, when you join BetMGM, you get access to a variety of parlay selection features like same-game parlays, live betting options, and more. If you haven't signed up yet for BetMGM, use bonus code HARDCOUNT, and you'll get up to $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how that works. 1, download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code HARDCOUNT. 2, deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. Step 3, you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use bonus code HARDCOUNT when you sign up. Let's make this college football season 1 for the books. Let's make it legendary. Let's get to the show. Welcome into the Hard Count presented by BetMGM. It's a little bit of a dreary day here today because the college football season has come and gone. Very December 26-ish kind of feel in the building today. The day after Christmas, you're like, gosh, that was so epic. Can we go back? The good news, though, is this is the show for college football fans that are really about that life when it comes to college football. Because you know now, just because the games aren't being played anymore doesn't mean college football doesn't still have its fastball. We got stuff going on in the transfer portal, which we'll cover on this channel. So, again, make sure you're subscribed. We got different things going on when it comes to how we're tracking rosters, and we'll, of course, track practice intel when spring ball comes. College football does not stop, baby. So deep breath in, deep breath out. We're going to go ahead and attack what is this part of the year when it comes to what's ahead of us. But we appreciate y'all being about this life. I will say this, though. This is the part of the year where your boy starts to get a little bit more dialed into the other football league that plays on Sundays. Now, AFC NFC title game coming up this weekend. If you want to get in on the action, our friends at BetMGM, little boost token for you. Okay, so let's say you like something in Rams Seahawks. Okay, go ahead and boost your payout with BetMGM. So lock in over there and just make sure you make more money if you got some action on a game and you're right. Is pretty much our advice to you on this side of things. So on today's show, with the season coming on, I want to revisit our way too early rankings. If you watched the episode from us from Tuesday, where we gave you our way too early top 10, I told you, hey, this is going to change, so don't be married to this. I also told you we'll give you a full top 25 here pretty soon. We're doing that today. So we have our top 10. We will relitigate more in a national title odds discussion with myself and Kaiden Smith, and we'll give you our full way too early top 25 here ahead of 2026 season now, which is, don't look, 220 some odd days away, going to be here before you know it. These rankings will change, but without further ado, let's jump into this way too early top 25. At number 25, the Houston Cougars, baby. Willie Fritz, Connor Wegman, won 10 games last year, including the bowl game. Okay, I'm here for it. Also, look at this, top 10 portal class currently for our friends in H-Town. I don't think the Big 12 is going to be a gauntlet to run through too much. So we'll keep a pulse on what's going on out there in H-Town. But as it stands right now, a team that brings back their quarterback, brings back their head coach, doing some work in the portal. I like Houston. I like Houston in the top 25. The way that I'm breaking up this top 25 rankings list for you is more or less by categories. 25 through 20 for me is kind of used as the pantry of these rankings. I know what I'm talking about now. In your pantry, you keep the things that you just kind of like, things like to snack on. I just like these teams 25 through 20. I'm not telling you they're going to be my go-to meal or going to be the thing that I'm rolling out there when I have a dinner party, but 25 through 20, I just kind of feel good about. I want to keep on hand. Houston is the top of the pantry for me at number 25. At number 24, I got Arizona. JD, you're just leaning on what last year was. You're going way too much off of 2025 and not enough about 2026. It's your own take. But I would answer that thought with, yes, I am going pretty heavily off of 2025 because they bring back Noah Fafita, who was top 10 in college football last year in touchdown passes. I like Arizona. Same thing I just said about Houston. Like, is the Big 12 going to be this war path to go through to get to the college football playoff? Remains to be seen. But as it stands right now, I'm more than fine having a couple Big 12 teams hanging out at the back of my top 25, Arizona being one of them. At number 23, I got Vanderbilt. All right, now, the Diego Pavia regression, I think, will be real. I would expect true freshman Jared Curtis to start for them at quarterback, Nashville's very own. Flipped him from Georgia, pretty close to National Signing Day. I think as much as the Diego Pavia absence will hurt, I think Clark Lee has an installed kind of like a chippiness culture, an Island of Misfit Toys kind of vibe to what's going on out there in Nashville, out here in Nashville, I should say. as much as you lose Diego Pavia, I don't think like the Diego Pavia vibe will leave this team too much going into next season. Still love the defense. Okay, I still think they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. Vanderbilt, again, they're not going to be a national title contender for me as it stands right now, but keep them in the pantry. I like them. Number 23, I got the Doors, baby. Now, number 22, I got the Iowa Hawkeyes. Here's the deal. Death, taxes, and Iowa not being fun to play is a certainty in life. But JD, who's playing quarterback, has that ever really mattered at Iowa? Is that whatever you were really hanging your hat on if you were a Hawkeye fan year in and year out? I don't think so. Last year, 4 losses by 1 score. Iowa, I think, was one of the most slept-on teams in all of college football last year with how good they really were relative to what their record said. Here are their losses. Iowa State, aged how it aged. Indiana. Well, they pushed Indiana to the freaking brink. National champion Indiana Hoosiers pushed them to the brink. Oregon and USC. Again, all by 1 score. I'm just saying, keep an eye on the Hawkeyes. Whatever they finish ranked next season, they're not going to be fun to play. They'll make you earn every single inch you get against them. Iowa at number 22 in our way too early rankings for 2026. Number 21, I got Georgia Tech. Here's my thing with Georgia Tech. Yes, you lose Haynes King. You enter into the fold here, I would expect an Alberto Mendoza. As much as losing Haynes King hurts, I still trust Brent Key. I think Brent Key has built Georgia Tech from a foundational perspective to last past just losing one player, even if that one player is your quarterback. So is Georgia Tech going to win the ACC? They absolutely could, but as it stands right now, I think they're definitely a top 25 team in college football. I think Brent Key has instilled in that football program a culture of toughness, physicality, grit, all the things now that last in the month of November in college football, and a conference in the ACC that I think will be won in the month of November. So Georgia Tech, number 21, ahead of 2026. Last team to round out our pantry phase here of this top 25, I got Missouri. Right? Now, here's my question. Can we keep that front 7 as elite as it was last year? Missouri remains to be seen. But, dude, they're always scrappy. Eli Drinkwitz is your head coach. There's going to be a swag, going to be a little bit of a vibe to him. Ahmad Hardy back in the mix is going to be phenomenal for them, going off of a big year. Last year's a true sophomore first year in the SEC. I mean, was the best back in college football, it felt like, for the first quarter of the season. You do make a switch at quarterback now. Bo Bula hits the portal. Enter in Matt Baller-Zollers. I don't know what Missouri's going to be, but similar to Iowa, I just think they're going to suck to play. I think they're going to take their eye out of the football. I would expect them to be one of the teams that ranks in the top 15 when it comes to time of possession. They will be the pit bull of the SEC. Now, we were just in Miami, so not that pit bull, but in terms of just like they're always going to be liable to bite you. They're going to be feisty, going to be scrappy, all those things. Missouri at number 20 in our way too early rankings for 2026. Cato, you were a guy who spent some time around Missouri head coach Eli Drinkwitz during your days out there in the high country at App State. Thoughts on Missouri ahead of 2026 and just overall thoughts as they stand right now in our top 25?
Yeah, JD, I just wanted to remind you they signed a guy named Austin Simmons through the transfer portal.
Yep,
be a
it's
Missouri
true.
Tiger. So
That's true.
I think that plus the Ahmad Hardy coming back in the backfield, I feel really good about Missouri, actually. You lose Kirby Moore, your offensive coordinator. He went to Washington State, but I feel like we talk about it a lot with these defensive coaches. That's their side of the ball. That's their baby. Offenses coach Drinkwitz side of the ball. So, like, worst case scenario, he can say my controls, take over the offense, call the plays, and be just fine. So I'm actually very high on Missouri. I have to take another look at their schedule, but I think I'm buying more stock in what they have going on in Columbia, especially in the SEC that's very year to year compared to a Vanderbilt, where I think Diego Pavia, we watched that documentary, the SEC doc, and I think that even Clark Lee in that made it very clear that this team goes as Diego Pavia goes. He leaves. I think he just was so important setting their culture. You could see his record with him without Pavia, and it's pretty clear. I don't know if he's going to be able to keep that going with a true freshman quarterback, but kind of the two opposite ends of the spectrum, I think, in 25 for 20 in the SEC for me. Buying a ton of Missouri stock personally, maybe a little bit more down on Vanderbilt, especially with some of those big-time performances in big games from Pavia. I think a true freshman quarterback, asking him to perform like that this upcoming season is going to be a lot.
It's a lot. There's no way around it. It is a lot, especially for what you did last year. If the expectation is, hey, we lose Diego Pavia, we don't miss a beat, I'm with you. I think that's a little bit rich. We'll see if they can mess around and be ranked. I mean, Vanderbilt being ranked again without Pavia. I understand it's like Vanderbilt doesn't want to have this like pat on the head, good for y'all, good year kind of situation. But if they can be ranked with losing, let's say this, potentially the most important player in program history and be ranked the next season, finish the year ranked the next season, we'll see. But I'm with you on Missouri too. Austin Simmons, I wonder what that climate is like going into spring ball between Simmons and Zollers, because we talked to Eli Drinkwitz last year at Media Days, Kaiden, and I was like, hey, what made Bo Pabula the right guy for you? And he was like, hang on a freaking second. I never once said Pabula was our starter. I was like, okay, hey, my bad. So I would expect there to be a pretty good battle between Zollers and Simmons in the spring, and it'll be fun to keep a pulse on, man.
Yeah, both notably. I think Austin Simmons is an upgrade from a talent standpoint, and I think you could say the same about Jared Curtis, honestly. I think it's going to be about, for both of these teams, can you fill the emotional void? Can Jared Curtis lead this team emotionally as a freshman in the way, keep them at a temperature that Diego Pavia did? He could wind up being a better player than Pavia, just looking at the talent and as an NFL prospect. Can he get the torch passed to him as far as keeping the culture set, the culture right? I think that's a big question there. And same with Austin Simmons. You're a guy who's seen your fair share of things in the SEC now from a backup perspective, from starting a couple games. So curious about the quarterback position in both of those spots. And I think both of these teams, it's fair to say they can kind of go as far as the quarterback will take them, but feel a little bit more confident in Drinkwitz in that regard.
Yeah, and Diego Pavia did a lot off script too. A lot off script. Can you be good enough around Jared Curtis where you don't have to ask as much of him as you did Diego Pavia to be crafty and make a guy miss and make that cat corner that is coming off your backside and you split it and then you go and gash him for a first down? Can you do things like that, or maybe not have to do things like that, and keep Vanderbilt rolling the way they were in 2025? So that's our 25 through 20. Let's go to 19 through 16. Now, these teams, I would say, I just have a good vibe about. Like, this part of the year, I think more than any other part, is fair to operate off of emotion and vibes and feelings. Now, when it comes time for games to actually be played, you don't pick games quite as much off feeling. I think logic's a good way to go there. But teams I have a feeling for, rather. Number 19, the Penn State Nittany Lions. Now, maybe I'm a touch lower on Penn State than some of our associates in this space, but I'll just say this. There's a whole lot of reliable heading to State College right now. Matt Campbell, Rocco Beck. In fact, take a look at this. There are 36 transfers that Penn State has acquired via this past portal cycle. Of those 36 transfers, 23 from Iowa State. 23. I'm not great with numbers now. It's well over half. Well over half when it comes to what they have coming in to State College. So is Penn State going to be a team that is back where they were last preseason? We're talking about them being a Big Ten title contender and making a go for the college football playoff. That's still a little bit rich for me based off what I believe the limitations to be of that roster at this point in time. But at the end of the day, Matt Campbell, Rocco Beck, high floor, ceiling still pretty high as well, but I feel really good about Penn State being back to where we expect them to be when it comes to just that logo being relevant in the scape of college football. Are they a playoff contender? We'll see, but relevant, absolutely. At number 18, I got Ole Miss. Hear me clearly. If Trinidad Chambliss is approved to play more college football, one, we will thank the good Lord because that's awesome for the sport, and we'd love seeing number 6 back there in that powder blue uni slinging and wheeling and dealing all the way here for that. With that being said, this ranking is assuming that Trinidad Chambliss does not get another year. Okay, so before the Rebel fans come for me in the comment section, I got y'all at 18, assuming you have Deuce Knight at quarterback next year. Now, Deuce Knight's still awesome. Haven't seen a lot of him playing college football just yet. Saw him tear up a lesser opponent in his one start for Auburn, which is a good deal, former 5-star guy. Just want to see something there, right? Re-signed Keywan Lacey. That's phenomenal. I think that when you look at the way that Ole Miss is built right now, there's going to be a lot of discussion about them this offseason of, well, how much did Kiffin mean and how much can Pete Golding keep it rolling? Y'all, just to keep it a buck right now, Ole Miss is crushing in the transfer portal, okay? Keeping Keywan Lacey, I would also factor into crushing in the transfer portal. Don't count out Ole Miss just yet. That's all I'm saying. Don't count out Ole Miss. I think they'll factor into that race in the SEC for the conference title as it stands right now in the month of January. But Ole Miss, they'll be higher if they have Trinidad, but I think at the end of the day, still a solid team to watch. Got a good vibe about them as we stand right now in January. Number 17, Tennessee Volunteers. I kind of feel like I'm on this seesaw with Tennessee because going into this season, we're like, hey, that defense is awesome. The defense is awesome if they can just get the offense right. Like, Nico was fun, but Joey Aguilar didn't get spring ball. If Heupel can just get the offense right, Tennessee's off to the freaking moon. And then the offense got right in a very big way with what they were throwing the football downfield and scoring points. Joey Aguilar led the SEC in passing and all those things, and the defense was just like on a milk carton, just absolutely missing. This year now, going into this season, I should say, question marks are back on the other side of the field with the offense, and I think you feel a lot better about the defense if you're a Tennessee fan. One, it can't get too much worse, I think, is your first thought when it comes to that pass defense. Second, you hired Jim Knowles, who, say what you want to say about what he did at Penn State, dude has a national championship ring on his finger from calling the defense for Ohio State, which is, I think, worth something in and of itself. I think he's one of the best DCs in the sport once he gets his feet under him. His feet under him meaning his team understands and can operate instinctually within the scheme of his defense, because it's a tough defense now. A lot of rule breakers, a lot of exotic looks, which takes some time to totally get right as a player, which is why I think you see the biggest jump for his defenses from that first year to the second year. But along with that now, Tennessee's done some work in the transfer portal to retool that defense with some experienced players. So is there a quickened learning curve of sorts for Tennessee on defense? I don't know. But I think you feel better about the defense when it comes to trajectory in 2026, and your question marks lie on the offensive side of the football, more specifically at the quarterback position. Because as a Tennessee fan now, you were kind of holding your breath like, okay, now here we go. Let's go get ourselves a quarterback in the portal. Oh, we're bringing in Sam Levitt for a visit. I like that. Feel good about that. Sam Levitt leaves. Okay, not Sam Levitt. That's cool. Bo Pabula, anybody? He started in the SEC. He's got some juice, some talent. Then the news breaks over the course of this past weekend. It's Ryan Staub from Colorado. 3 touchdowns, 4 picks. So you're like, okay, this wasn't really what I thought we were getting here if you're a Tennessee fan. I keep saying this. Trust Josh Heupel. Now, it is a lot harder to say trust Josh Heupel when you took Ryan Staub at quarterback. I don't know if he's going to be your guy, but I do think, look at that room, young, outside of Ryan Staub, not untalented. George McIntyre, four-star prospect. A Faison Brandon, 5-star prospect, true freshman. Okay, can we go with one of those guys? If one of those guys can get up to speed quickly and make this offense go how it's supposed to go, we could be in business if the defense holds up their end of the bargain. So Tennessee at 17 to me feels like a good blend of I like the defense direction, I trust Heupel, but there's real question marks at quarterback. We'll see what Tennessee is, man. But again, in terms of how we evaluate this team, I feel like 1 year I'm asking about the defense, next year I'm asking about the offense, once again I'm asking about the defense, now I'm back on the offense. So we'll see what's going on there, but I think Josh Heupel has proven he's more than worth his salt when it comes to calling the offense, and I think Tennessee will be a force to be reckoned with over the course of this season. If nothing else, I think they will make somebody's November very frustrating, because they'll be on the doorstep of playing for the playoff. You play Tennessee, you get beaten Neyland or whatever it is, and Tennessee ruins somebody's playoff dreams. I think they're still good for that. Are they good for more than that? TBD. It's January in 2026, and we're talking about the Vols being a top 20 team in college football for my money. Before we move on here, Cato, we're in the Volunteer State. We're not but, 3-4 hours away from Knox Vegas. We got to get to a game in Neyland next year, bro. That's got to be a spot that we go to. Overall thoughts on Tennessee, because you and I were in the hotel room shooting some content for the channel when the Ryan Staub news broke, and you're like, hey, you want to roll on this? I said, absolutely. We've had a little bit to sit with it right now. Overall thoughts on the Tennessee offense here going in 2026, because that's the part of the ball that you feel good about with Heupel, but you look at the quarterback position, you're like, okay, hey, Josh, if you do this now, if you do this, no more questions about you ever in our life, but it will take your finest work to elevate Tennessee to be a team that's in the college football playoff with that young and maybe less than inspiring acquisition at the quarterback position via the transfer portal. Thoughts on the Vols offense, Cato?
Yeah, first of all, you talk about going to Neyland Stadium. SEC opener hosting Texas. I mean, I couldn't think of a better place for us to debut. That'd be fun, but no, their schedule does look pretty favorable given the SEC, and I think that the Texas game that early in the season, they go to Georgia Tech in week 2, doesn't give you a ton of room to give a quarterback some runway to grow, so that worries me. I do like having a younger quarterback have the ability to get some more reps under his belt and kind of ramp up into some SEC play. But going to Bobby Dodd against a physical squad is going to be no joke, and then hosting Texas to open SEC play is not going to be ideal for whoever's under center there. I think that the trust in Josh Heupel with the offense, it can only go so far. You know, I think this is going to be the number one team. We'll get to another team here too that really have our ear on the ground as far as spring practice, summer, fall camp, what we're hearing about the quarterback position. Because I think you mentioned in the video we talked about when the Staub news broke, Deshaun Bishop in the run game can help you out a ton. If this Jim Knowles defense is humming, that can help you a ton. But that can only get you so far in the SEC when Texas is on your schedule, Alabama's on your schedule, LSU, A&M. Like, they're not going to be easy games here. You have playing Kentucky with Will Stein now at the helm, going to try to give defenses some headaches, just regardless schematically. And we saw last year's defense give up a ton of points, and it was a shootout style. So I trust in the fact that if between the run game, the pass game, and the defense, if you can close two of those rings, I think Josh Heupel can do what he does, win you 9-10 games maybe. But if you want to reach your full potential, and just given how the Nico situation went last year and people kind of looking at that season being kind of a hard reset and being surprised with how Joey played and him kind of rising to the occasion, if you don't have a quarterback that can do that for you, I think the expectations need to be reset yet again. So I'm holding out hope. I'm not super confident. If Heupel can make a winner out of any of these quarterbacks in the room, whether it's a young guy or a guy that doesn't really have a ton of proven production, then like you said, put a statue up for him. I mean, kudos to Josh. But I think with a run game and defense, he can still do more than most coaches in the SEC, win yourself 8 or 9 games. But I think as far as the upper echelon where Tennessee wants to be and where they have been in the last couple of years, you need a guy calling plays and being the signal caller there. So cautiously optimistic. I'm not really high on them, but we'll definitely be at VolQuest in the generals quarters to see what they say about the quarterback position, because even then the wide receivers don't really have a ton of excitement for me right now as we stand in the month of January.
You need a guy's guy.
Yeah.
You have some guys. You got a Guy Fieri. You're speaking Guyanese back. You need some of that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it'll be first team all intel with the Vols. Like you said, VolQuest, go get tapped in there. Austin Price and the boys dishing the intel.
We'll need to know.
All the scoop. I mean, we're about to get the guy on freaking speed dial, man. Hey, Austin, how'd it look today? JD, no practice today. Austin, how was it today? Just had meetings. Oh, how was the meeting, Austin? Tell us how. I mean, it's going to be a lot of that here. I think also, before we move on, I think we're higher on the Vols than the rest of the industry as it stands right now. Seeing Tennessee, if they're ranked in that like 20 to 25 range, having them in the teens. So we'll hold out hope on the Vols as it stands right now. But I'm with you, Cato. Gonna take some extra juice there in Knoxville to get it done. Last team of this batch in terms of teams that I just have a good feeling on, like the vibe right now. Utah at 16. JD, Kyle Whittingham's not the head coach there anymore. Why are you so high on the Utes? Whenever there's a breakup, it takes a while to reprogram. You know what I'm saying? Whenever you have a breakup, it's like you got to change the screensaver. Maybe that takes you a week or so. No shame. Let your heart heal. Maybe you still have some of their things. Maybe you got to kind of reprogram the memories a little bit, right? I think the breakup remnants for Utah will actually serve them pretty well in 2026. There's still a piece of Kyle Whittingham with this team now. Understand that. Morgan Scalley was the head coach in waiting before Kyle Whittingham was moving on from Utah. So if Kyle Whittingham is like signing off on Morgan Scalley being the next head coach at Utah, while he's still the head coach at Utah, I think that means something. I think it's going to be very much so the same DNA that Utah Utes team have been in the past. Also, let's call a spade here too. Devon Dampier said, run that back, Turbo. Back for another year in the system, another year in the conference. I think that's going to play well. So is Utah going to be a team that lights the world on fire? I would love that for college football. I think that'd be fun. But I think the Kyle Whittingham element that still lives with the Utes here in terms of their physicality and how they're built, I think that'll be a good thing for Utah here in 2026. So like those teams, got a good vibe around them, just good feeling, all right? Much like the holiday season, you just kind of operate off vibes and emotions. That's us in January when it comes to our way too early top 25. Now, 15 through 11 here, a little bit more spicy. These are the teams that I would say I don't need to squint too hard to see making the college football playoff. Now, I do need to squint a little bit, maybe so. You know, I'm getting older. I need to sometimes take a step back and no glasses yet, but just kind of squint and see what I can see on the page. These teams, I think, can still make the college football playoff, and it wouldn't be that shocking. Now, at the end of this tier for me here is Alabama. Alabama is that wild kid with good parents. You know what I'm saying? You had a buddy in high school who just can't seem to get it right, man. Making poor decisions, getting in trouble, bad grades, and you're like, dude, your parents are awesome. Why are you acting out all the time? But you're like, hey, I think they'll be okay long term. Just got to kind of straighten out a little bit. I trust the parenting. Same deal with Alabama. I'm like, what's going on in Alabama? We can't stop the run? Can't run the football? With that uniform? I thought it was a thing where you walk into Bryant-Denny Stadium and you just level up like 10 XP when it comes to physicality and giving out football headaches. That wasn't Alabama last year. And to make matters worse now, the transfer portal has been taken more than given to Alabama on that side of things. So I don't feel good about that. I think the quarterback room is massively talented with Austin Mack and Keelan Russell. I would expect Keelan Russell to be the guy's guy for you there. We'll see what happens. But I have them as high as I do. I've seen Alabama further back in the teens on some different way too early rankings for different people. I have them at 15 because I'm like, I still trust the parents. I still trust the adults in charge. I like Kane Womack. I like Ryan Grubb. I really like Kalen DeBoer. Dude's won college football playoff games with 2 different teams now. And last year wasn't an incredible year, but you still made the playoff. You still played for the SEC championship. So, yes, the Indiana thing was embarrassing in the Rose Bowl. Newsflash, Indiana did the exact same thing to Oregon, and I don't think anybody's questioning the chops of Oregon right now. I worry a little bit about how we stand right now with the portal and the roster and all those things. The unknowns around Alabama, they make me a little bit nervous, but I trust the adults. I think Alabama will be okay. Don't have to squint to see them in the college football playoff next year. We'll see what happens. At 14, I got USC. Now, USC popping last year was actually exactly what we had on this channel for the Trojans. We said they'd be 9-3, ended up being 9-3. Y'all, if they find a way to beat Oregon and Autzen last year, they're a college football playoff team. Just food for thought. This was kind of the year that I had circled, though, for USC. I said, if you can pop under Jaden Maiava here in 2025, you set yourself up to make a real run at this thing in 2026 and be a playoff team. Now, the plot twist I didn't have baked into that is losing Danton Lynn as your DC. So if the defense can continue to trend the way that it has since Danton Lynn got there with no Danton Lynn here in 2026, I think that's probably the key ingredient. I feel good about the personnel, though, on the defensive side of the football for the first time in a long time for USC. I really trust the offense, though. Yes, you lose Mekhi Lemon, Biletnikoff Award winner, but as long as it's Lincoln Riley going into this thing with a year 2 quarterback, call it year 2.5, give or take, for Jaden Maiava, I think we're going to see him play his best football of his career, even with no Mekhi Lemon. I really like the USC trend right now. You got some young bucks that you would expect to contribute for you with the number 1 overall recruiting class from this past cycle. We'll see with USC. But again, I like the trend. I had this year circled. I trust Lincoln Riley and the way he's got that thing humming right now. Curious to watch what that DC ends up looking like for USC. There's reports that they've been in contact with Gary Patterson. I wouldn't hate that at all, given his track record. We'll see with USC, but I got them at number 14 as of right now and would not be surprised if they took that next step and became a playoff team here in 26. Number 13, I got the BYU Cougars, man. All right, they are the vanilla ice cream of college football. Forgotten about, not as flashy. They'll make a ton of headlines usually, and you zoom out, though. BYU under Kalani Sitake has been really awesome more years than not. Of the last 6 seasons, 4 of them have been double-digit wins. Okay, you bring back a freshman quarterback and the best name, I think, in college football, and Bear Bachmeier, not Bear the show, but still has got the hands for it. I'm all the way here for BYU. The reigning Pop-Tart Bowl champions now. Just reminder for everyone. Again, not the flashiest. They're in the Big 12, so they kind of get forgotten about too, but I think they're a team that could absolutely find themselves back in the Big 12 title game, and if the cards fall in a certain direction, maybe you don't even need to win the Big 12 this year to make the college football playoff, if BYU does what we think they could do here this upcoming season. So I like BYU, a lot of parts there. The vanilla ice cream, kind of forgotten about, not the most flashy. It's not your caramel twist or your sherbet or what have you, but it always delivers. Always delivers when it comes to checking the box. I think that's BYU. Now, number 12, I got LSU. There was a show on TV a couple of years ago. I don't know if it's still on TV. My mom would watch it a lot, called How Do I Look? Where you take someone who doesn't really have the fits. This Kaiden Smith would never be on this show, just for the record now. But someone's wardrobe not all the way up to snuff. Okay, a little bit lackluster in that department. And then they go on this show, How Do I Look? Get a huge makeover, new wardrobe. They come out and it's like, bam, you went up a couple points right there. Good for you. Y'all, that's LSU. LSU has had a complete makeover since Lane Kiffin showed up. 38 transfers for the Tigers. Now, we knew the Portal King would do this. I mean, you take his approach to building a roster and give him a nice little NIL budget, as they have out there in Baton Rouge, and he's going to work. Of those 38 transfers, 7 on the offensive line. That's huge here. So you're watching the trenches last year and laughing at my national title prediction. Garrett Nussmeier running for his life, and he's not a great runner. So, I mean, rock me hard place. That's not going to be the case this year in Baton Rouge. And also you got Sam Levitt, who brings some real juice both running and throwing the football for LSU. The swagger is back. Now, what does that swagger amount to? Their first year under Lane Kiffin, we'll see. But I will confidently say this. The overall persona of LSU football with violence, physicality, confidence, bravado, swagger to drive home that point even further, that will be more visible than it was under Brian Kelly. Lesson learned. Fit matters, especially at a place like LSU. Lane Kiffin's going to fit that place a lot better in 2026. Feel pretty confident saying that, having the Tigers at 12. To round out this tier, I got Michigan. Now, the vibes are bad with the exodus of Sharon Moore and how ugly that whole thing was. It kind of makes you forget that they won 9 football games, gave Ohio State a pretty good scare in that first quarter for those of us that watched the football game. And, oh, by the way, you got Pandora's box and Bryce Underwood at quarterback for you. And I say that to say I don't think we even saw a version of how good he's truly going to be wearing the maize and blue. You bring in Jason Beck to be the OC, who was Kyle Whittingham, new head coach Kyle Whittingham, his OC at Utah. I just think it's going to fit his skill set way, way better. And the Kyle Whittingham effect of this, too, can't be overstated. I think Sharon Moore and what he was at Michigan with the overall persona they had of we're still going to be the tough guy on the block, we're still going to boss you around in the trenches, I don't think that was fake, but I don't think it was truly all that it was cracked up to be or what you thought it would be when you found out he was your head coach. Kyle Whittingham being your head coach gives that tough guy edge, I think, more of a kick in the pants, kind of a reboot, if you will, because Kyle Whittingham, made his name for himself at Utah, being the bully on the block, being the toughest team in college football year after year, especially in that conference, whether it was the Pac-12 or the Big 12. So that'll be re-energized, I think, and the Michigan brand of ball you've come to expect out there from the Jim Harbaugh days, I think it'll be a lot more real than it was these past couple seasons under Sharon Moore. Kind of give a shot of caffeine to that. Don't have to squint at all to see Michigan be a college football playoff team with a rejuvenated Bryce Underwood, a more developed Bryce Underwood here from spring to fall camp. Can't wait to see what the Wolverines are here in 2026, but I think they're going to be a team that is absolutely in that mix for a college football playoff spot. Cato, before the year began, you called your shot and were very, very nearly on the money with Michigan being a college football playoff team. We look at 2026, and dude, I'm looking at that pool, and it's January, so I'm not jumping in any pools right now, both metaphorically and literally, because we're gonna be freaking cold out here in Nashville, not that Miami weather. But I'm looking at that team, man. You might have just been the first one on that train to get Michigan to the college football playoff. Thoughts on where they are right now and how things are trending for the Wolverines ahead of next season? I got them at 11, which I guess by nature of straight seeding would have them in the college football playoff. Thoughts on Michigan going into 2026 in the new regime with Kyle Whittingham?
We're pumped over here. We're
Pretty
excited.
sick.
You know I was a Utah guy. You know I was a Michigan guy by result of picking them making the college football playoff.
Hey.
I'm having to calm myself down about what Michigan could be this upcoming college football season. Kyle Whittingham's press conference only made me feel better about that when he talks about how every single year, no matter what conference he is in, he's the most physical team. He is the best team at running the football. Can't think of anything that would help Bryce Underwood more than the ability to have that rushing attack there, and I'm so curious to see how much he's going to be a part of that rushing attack. So my Michigan stock, I'm holding on to. I'm not letting go of it. I'm buying more of it if I can right now, if anyone's selling it. I feel good about the Wolverines. Like you said, not to disparage what the regime was post-Harbaugh, but there's just a difference between having the torch passed to you as far as having the identity of being physical, being smash mouth, and having that culture, and a guy who has made that his calling card for the better part of several decades at Utah. I think it's going to translate to the Big Ten like money. I think that across the Big Ten, that's what's winning lately. This conference has representation in the national championship as a national champion the last couple of years. Yeah. Very physical outfits for all of those teams. Kyle Whittingham's going to do the same thing. I'm pumped about it. I'm excited about it. And I have to talk myself down a little bit from this one, and not to spoil the next exercise we have coming over here. Let's just I'd have a little bit of a dollar amount, if you will, on Michigan potentially winning the national championship if I could grab those odds.
A little Cato sprinkle?
Just a
January flurry?
Just a little sprinkle. Not a ton of precipitation. We're expecting a lot this weekend in Nashville in the form of snow, so not that much. Sorry, microphone. But just a little sprinkle for sure.
I like that a lot. I like that point you made, too, about the blueprint of a national championship caliber team. We've been to 2 national title games together, Cato, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Miami, Indiana. All 4 of those teams, tough. It's a tough guy's college football. I mean, the commercials and the hype videos is about, throwing the ball around the field and scoring points, and that's all well and good and definitely gets us jacked up as well. But you want to win a national title now, you're tough. And that's what Michigan's going to be here in 2026 with a dude at quarterback now that can throw it around as well, which I'm excited to see what he is here coming up next season with Bryce Underwood. But I'm with you, man. Michigan, a lot of juice now, and it feels like it's a more trustable juice now with a guy who has delivered on the juice year in and year out in Salt Lake with Kyle Whittingham. Going to be fun.
Most definitely, man. Hail to the victors.
Look at the guy, man. Golly, if we go to the national, I'll say when we go to the national title game next year, and if Michigan is there as well, you're going to be good, dude. The folks in maize and blue are going to be making sure no libations are paid for out of your pocket. So should be a lot of fun. Okay, so that is 25 up to 11 for the Waaay-Too-Early rankings going into 2026. This next part of the rankings, though, I want to give this precursor. The top 10 for me, with the way the playoff in college football has pushed the sport to, I think all 10 of these teams in our rankings are teams I could see playing for a national championship, quite frankly, as we sit right now in January of 2026. So we're going to go through this top 10. If you have watched the show, we have already tipped our hand and told you who we think the top 10 teams are going into next season. So this isn't going to be a surprise for you. But we've gotten some information from our friends over at BetMGM, and we have the early odds on national championship winners for 2026. So I'm going to go through these top 10. But within this top 10, we'll pause at different points and say, hey, Cato, if I gave you $100, how much of that money would you be putting on X, Y, and Z team to play for, or dare I say, win a national championship in this discussion? So we'll run it back. At number 10, I got Oklahoma. I told y'all already, man, what's not to like? It's the Sooners. It's Brent Venables in that defense. It's John Mateer, a healthy John Mateer now, knock on wood. And we all saw what that dude was when he was healthy. I think the end of the season, how they finished the year, scoring 17 points in back-to-back games and winning an ugly style brand of ball and getting it done with the defense, made us all think, oh, that's who they are. If you score points, you're going to beat them because John Mateer's not answering. I don't think so. Lee Corso's not on College Game Day anymore, and it breaks my heart, but not so fast, my friend. John Mateer, when he's healthy, I still think he's one of the best quarterbacks in college football. I'm not letting what he was with that thumb injury make me forget what he was when he was healthy, because we saw him healthier against Alabama, and the pick was bad. I get all that, but we saw a version of John Mateer that we were accustomed to seeing when the year began. I still think that offense is going to be a force to be reckoned with him playing quarterback. I think the run game, there's no shot it's worse, right? I think that'll be better in 2026, and I think the defense will be similar to what we saw under Brent Venables here every single year as long as he's the head coach. So I love the defense. Feel good about the offense. Oklahoma's had the toughest schedule in college football last year. They made the playoff. You're telling me they're not going to make the playoff with an easier schedule here, potentially? We'll wait to call our shot, but as it stands right now, I would very comfortably say I think Oklahoma could be in the mix to play for a national championship here this upcoming season. So at number 10, I got Oklahoma. Now at number 9, I got the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, baby. And I thought that maybe Notre Dame was flying under the radar a little bit until I checked what the odds were at BetMGM for them to win a national championship. Spoiler alert, Notre Dame, as it stands right now, has the second best odds. They're tied for the second best odds to win a national championship. Now, a couple years ago, when Riley Leonard transferred over there, Notre Dame coined the term for me, frozen pizza. And frozen pizza is that situation where maybe around 7 o'clock dinner time, the frozen pizza isn't calling your name. It's like, yeah, I could go for a frozen pizza. It sounds all right. I'm not getting out of my seat for it. But then you get to 9 o'clock. Then you get to 10 o'clock. You're approaching midnight. You're looking at that frozen pizza, and you're like, come here, you. This is the best thing I've ever heard of to eat right now. That was what Notre Dame was that offseason. They ended up playing for a national championship. I might be back on that train here in 2026 with Notre Dame. Some of my coworkers had Notre Dame as number 1 in the country. That was a little bit rich for me. But I look at how they're built, man. Marcus Freeman and that side of the football defensively will always be in good shape. I think last year was a pretty good testament to that. You lose Al Golden to the NFL, entering Chris Ash. Defense took 0 steps back. More than fine. I think that's a Marcus Freeman thing. On the offense side of the football, C.J. Carr now went and got him some weapons, and Quincy Porter and Mylan Graham, 2 individuals that were 5-star prospects at the wide receiver position that took their talents to Ohio State, now going to Notre Dame. If you could play wide receiver at Ohio State, or if Ohio State wants you to play wide receiver for them, you got the blue check mark from me. I'm going to go ahead and verify you as a dude. So you got those toys for a quarterback now that was top 10 in America last year in terms of quarterback rating. I think C.J. Carr is flying under the radar as one of the better quarterbacks in college football coming back next season. So Notre Dame, I think they have a top 5 quarterback and coach combo for my money. You lose Jeremiah Love, that hurts. You lose Darian Price, that hurts. But I love what I just said. C.J. Carr, Mike Denbrock calling the show. I trust the defense. The schedule will not be a murderer's row for the Irish now. Understand that. Even so, in a vacuum, I like Notre Dame a lot. I got them top 10 way too early in my college football rankings ahead of 2026. So, Cato, there are people that we work with that are way higher on the Irish. I don't fault them for it. I want to see what that offense looks like without the running attack that you had in that backfield now, gone to the league more than likely. Where are you at on the Irish? And if I gave you $100, how much of that are you putting on Notre Dame to win the national championship here in 2026?
Yeah, JD, I'm a little bit lower on the Irish. I think that I'm a little bit lower on, I think, C.J. Carr as well than you
Okay.
are. He's a good player, good quarterback. I think I need to see what he looks like without the best backfield duo in the country behind him for him to prove it to me. I like that they got him some weapons, younger weapons that are a little bit less proven as far as production, but are good recruits. So they're probably going to have to stylistically change their offense here a little bit just because they're not going to be able to rely on Jeremiah Love, who's the best running back by far in the country, who also did something for you in the pass game. Darian Price did stuff for you in the return game as well. I think that backfield duo leaving, I'm more worried about that than most people. So I only have $5 going to Notre Dame in this situation.
Only $5.
Only $5.
Okay.
So I have my full allotment here. There's also $5 going to LSU for me, who's outside of your top 10.
Okay.
And I also have $5 going to Michigan. That's outside of your top 10.
So we're down to $85 if I'm seeing this correctly.
Personally, yes.
Okay, so we have 85 to work with the rest of the top
And we
10.
mentioned
Gotcha.
Oklahoma before. I have $10 going to Oklahoma. So
Down to
those
75.
Yeah. So
Okay.
no, I got it figured out. I have a game plan here. I also want to note here too. I'm willing to let go of my $5 for Notre Dame, given another circumstance that we'll get down the line with the rankings with another team. I have Notre Dame directly tied to another team with the money there. And another thing with my allotment here as well, just to get this out the way, I have most of my money going to the Big Ten as a result of what they have done the last 3 years. I'd feel wrong not having most of this $100 allotment going to the conference that I think is proven to produce the most national champions. So spoiler alert, most of my money will be in that conference. Now we know $5 of those dollars is going to Michigan. But yeah, I'm not as high on Notre Dame, and I think a part of this too is me in the month of January still being able to punish them for opting out of the Pop-Tart Bowl. They had the video of Marcus Freeman from their little docu-series talking with the captains about sitting out of the Pop-Tart Bowl. He's telling them how proud he is of making that decision. We have Marcus Freeman at the national championship on the desk. So you can come to the national championship and talk about the national championship and chop it up with the boys at College Game Day, but you and your guys can't suit it up for the Pop-Tart Bowl and play one more game. Leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Don't feel comfortable putting my money there right now. I think these are the opposite things that were the reason why you made the national championship last year. You were physical. You spot the ball. We'll play you anywhere, anytime. As we get away from this season right now, I'm not getting that same vibe from that team that made the national championship last year. So I'm a little bit worried there about what's going on in South Bend as far as the optics are just rubbing me the wrong way. When we're talking about my hypothetical $100, I don't feel as comfortable giving it to the Fighting Irish as we sit here in January. If we get through the offseason and we're hearing that C.J. Carr is really taking a leadership role, him and his weapons are dialed, Jeremiah Love, no problem not having him there, then maybe I'll give more money to the Irish. But in the month of January right now, I think they're on a generationally bad run right now optically, and I'm not giving them a ton of my money. So $5 and maybe even taking the $5 away once we talk about another team here coming up.
Wow. So if I'm processing this correctly, we need some space. Sometimes things happen, leaves a bad taste in the mouth. Friends fight, brothers fight. We need a little bit of time away, and then we get into the summer months. Things get a little bit warmer. Maybe vibes get better. What game was Notre Dame going to be in again? Oh, I don't even remember that game. Did they play in the bowl game? I don't remember if they. I'm hoping that ends up happening. I just think going back to Notre Dame in the run game, why I feel okay about them as it stands right now. Remember that run they were on? A different team, but that run they were on where they made the national title game. Marcus Freeman just kept driving this home. He's like, O-line, D-line driven program, baby. I'm like, okay, I'll believe it. And it was in place here with the guys carrying the football and Jeremiah Love and Jadaean Price going to have to carry over now with losing two of the best backs arguably in college football. But I'm with you. I don't think the logic is unfair to say, I need to see a little bit more from C.J. Carr, from these without the run game, I should say. I think that's a very fair assessment. But $5 on the Irish for
they gotta get in my good graces here. I remember when we saw pregame Texas A&M 2 years ago, and Marcus Freeman was yelling at his boys before the game, firing them up before they ran out and took the field. That might flip me right there, and then it's all right. Here's $30, Marcus. I just need more of that. We are too far removed from that, and we are too close to the bad Pop-Tart taste in my mouth. I don't know what flavor that would be because all Pop-Tarts are pretty delicious.
Yeah.
Bad Pop-Tart taste in the mouth. Didn't like him on the front lines on the media, doing his media tour during the national championship. Got to get in my good graces fighting Irish. I'm leaving room in my heart for you to do that because I do think he's one of the best coaches in college football, and I think it's not ridiculous at all to say what you said about the quarterback-coach combination. But man, I just don't like the run they're on right now.
Vibes are bad.
We'll see where the vibes go in the offseason. It's going to be a long offseason. We have a lot of propaganda to talk about, a lot of media days and different things to dive into, and we'll get there with the Fighting Irish. But month of January, you don't deserve a ton of money in my book.
Okay. 5 for Kaiden for the Irish. More power to you. More power to you. Notre Dame, again, at number 9 in my college football playoff rankings. And the plot will thicken. Again, second best odds, tied 3 ways for the second best odds to win the national championship game at plus 700. At number 8, though, we got Texas A&M. We were, I think, pretty early on the Texas A&M hype train, and we took some bullets for it. I told y'all, man, I'm posting in the preseason about, hey, I like this roster. Hey, I like Marcel Reed. Hey, I think Mike Elko is a version of stability and culture and toughness that we haven't seen in College Station in some time now. We're hearing, it's Texas 8-4. They always have this hype in the preseason. And we were like, no, every single preseason we've actually been on the other side of this hype, telling you A&M's not going to be X, Y, and Z. We're on the hype train, made the playoff, win 11-1, all those things. I don't think they're going to regress that much. I understand you lose some key pieces. You'd like to think that run game will find a way to stay intact even with what you lose there. Obviously, you lose a Casey Concepcion, which never a good thing, but Mario Craver's back. Marcel Reed, another year more experienced. Yes, Colin Klein has gone to Kansas State, but you made an internal promotion there, which I like that move from Mike Elko. I don't think he makes that move with it being Texas A&M unless he felt good about Holloman Wiggins and how he can operate there within that offense. So I think with A&M, my biggest thing is, as much as I like the roster, it's a Mike Elko thing. I don't think you become less like your head coach in year 3 after all the success you just had. I think A&M feels like a little bit hollow with them getting to host a playoff game after being 11-0 heading into that Texas game. I think that finish to their season, losing to Texas, losing to Miami at home, hopefully create a little bit of a fire underneath them, and I think Mike Elko is just the right guy to stoke that fire. So A&M for me at number 8 in our Way-Too-Early rankings. At number 7, Texas. Now, Texas, similar to Notre Dame, is a team that a lot of other people have way higher in their rankings, and that's more than fine. I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just saying, for me, I need to see what we think in theory is going to play out in principle, because I love Arch Manning, and I love the way that he's progressed and got off the ropes mentally from what he was that Ohio State game and the way he finished and beaten A&M the season finale and all those things. I think he's going to be awesome. I do, though, worry about a little bit of the things around him that kept us from getting the best version of Arch Manning as soon as we did. Like that offensive line, it was guys that were not unfamiliar playing college football, but they were unfamiliar playing college football together. And on the offensive line, that matters a lot. And Texas was wanting in that category. The skill positions, I get more excited now about Cam Coleman being paired with Ryan Wingo. It's a big reason why I think if you're expecting to go play for a national title in Austin here next season, I think you're well within your rights to think that way. I want to see how it comes together around him, and I want to see the defense also progress under Will Muschamp. So Texas at 7. If you think they should be higher, I don't have a ton of pushback for you. I'm just a little bit more conservative here with Texas, with the new DC and with some new pieces around Arch. But the biggest thing that I love about Texas right now, I think they took last year personal with going 9-3 and missing the playoff, and understanding that if they had played their best ball a little bit earlier, they probably are in the playoff. They probably aren't having this discussion about, man, if we could just find a way to win in the swamp and had the light bulb, click on earlier. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case, and that's why you're sitting at home watching the college football playoff. So I think that level of frustration, we say this with other teams too, I think it kind of pissed them off for greatness. You know what I'm saying? I think for Texas, missing the playoff after being favored by a number of different people last year to go win the national championship. I think that created the right sense of urgency. I think Sark also probably tasted his own blood a little bit. And Sark tasted his own blood here is a good thing by nature of them going out and getting a Cam Coleman and going out and making some moves on the transfer portal trail, grabbing Raleek Brown from Arizona State. Dalen Smothers, also one of the best names in college football, added to that backfield. 6 yards of carry at NC State, flipping from Alabama in the portal. Coming over to Austin, I think the run game will be more of what you're used to seeing in Austin. I think Arch Manning will have, again, better weapons to maximize himself if that offensive line can be better in 2026. I'm drinking a lot more burnt orange Kool-Aid, and maybe that happens during the springtime where we get more intel. But Texas, as it stands right now, for me, number 7 in the way too early rankings, and will not be shocked if they find themselves even higher before toe meets leather. Cato, I kind of always start a little bit conservative on things that I want to be more aggressive on because I'm trying to go back against my better judgment here. Texas could absolutely be a top 3 team in the country. Absolutely. I got them at 7. Where are you when it comes to their national title aspirations? As it stands right now, they are also a part of that group that is tied for second in
they're plus 700
college football playoff. Tied with Notre Dame, notably.
Yeah.
Where are you on Texas when it comes to your $100 allotment? You got $75 right now to work with. Yeah. How much of that is going on Texas plus 700 to win it all?
Yeah, and we talked about A&M before this. I have $5 going to Texas A&M.
Okay.
And I have $10 going to Texas. Sorry.
Okay, so we're down to 60, but 10 of that going to Texas. Okay.
Yeah.
Got
so
you.
with A&M, I feel like A&M and LSU, I put 5 each there, and I feel kind of the same way about them. Really hard schedule. And the more we step away from the 2025 season, who did A&M really beat last year? You know what I mean? The Notre Dame game was impressive, but you look at who they beat and ran through. I mean, Auburn, Mississippi State, Florida, Arkansas, LSU, Missouri, South Carolina. Then you play Texas and you lose. That worries me. The lack of Colin Klein worries me. I think that Marcel Reed's development was going to be major this offseason as far as if he's the same player than he was last year, he'll be just as exciting and fun to watch. But in those big-time games against teams like Texas, you might fall short. You might fall short against a team like Miami who's stout up front. I really wanted the continuity of the coordinator there so Marcel Reed could take those steps in the right direction. But instead, he's going to have to probably learn some new nuances in a new offense. We'll see how much continuity they have there. That worries me. Texas, though, I'll give them $10 easily. I think that's a high-powered offense. You talk about Hollywood Smothers in the backfield. You talk about Cam Coleman in the backfield. Arch Manning attributing with his legs to the offense, him really coming into his own towards the end of the season. Can some of his receivers make those 50-50 plays, so some of those drops we saw last in the season? I don't know what the defense is going to be. Hopefully they round it into form, but I think Texas is going to have a top-5 offense right now as it stands in the entire country next year. I think it's going to be a high-powered offense, man. I'm a big believer in Texas. I'm really excited. I think season starts, we get a winning of Ohio State maybe we even that series up against Ohio State. Arch gets some redemption there. I think all of a sudden it's on and popping, and Texas is that guy, I think, in college football potentially with the biggest target on their back if they make that statement against Ohio State early in the season. So I'm high on Texas. I'm a little bit higher on another team in the SEC, but $10 for them as of right now is the most I've given anyone outside of Oklahoma. I think them in Oklahoma, $10 for the Red River. Both ways, I feel good about.
I like that a lot. I like what you said about Arch too. Like if that confidence juice kicks in quickly in 2026, we saw when he got some mojo, like post Mississippi State, felt like he was just a different player. Once he had that big game and had that energy behind him of like, okay, I know I can do this, but now I have some proof of concept when I go back and watch film with Steve Sarkisian that tells me to my face, no, Arch, you're good enough to do this. So I don't think it was ever like an internal confidence thing, but once he actually got some real momentum behind him, dude was just a different quarterback. And we could even see it watching the way that he threw the football. Like we saw him first game against Ohio State. He's out here bouncing curl routes, bouncing out routes on the run, and you're like, what is going on? Like if you can't make that throw, you're not at Texas. So we know Arch can make that throw, but seeing him just look night and day more comfortable in that really last third of the season, I think if you're a Texas fan, you're absolutely just guzzling the Kool-Aid at this point in time, and more power to you with a Cam Coleman to go with it. You get to maximize Arch Manning even more. Not hard to see Texas playing for a national title in Vegas, dude. Not hard at all.
No, I mean if Cam Coleman and Arch Manning are the best wide receiver quarterback duo in the country, no one would be surprised. But if that is the case, man, I mean they're going to be a fun team to watch, man, and they're going to be a hard team to bet against. I think it's the SEC schedule, so they're going to have week in and week out some tough competition, and you throw in Ohio State as a non-conference opponent. But who else has something like that? Sayin and Jeremiah Smith, but like Sayin is for as accurate as he is, Arch Manning's a bigger player who can take a little bit more care of himself in the pocket and make things happen with his legs. And you bring a running back in with proven production, man. This offense, just thinking about it right now, gets me excited, and I can't wait to see what spring ball sounds like in Austin as far as what they're going to do offensively. And with Sark, I think really being able to lean into what he does best and make it very hard on defensive coordinators week in and week out, just attacking every blade of grass.
We thought the hype machine was rolling last preseason with what Arch Manning's going to be. Oh, run it back with a full year of good Arch Manning? And Cam Coleman, the Bionicle on the perimeter? Okay, here we go. Here we go in Austin. I'm all about it, man. Well, at number 6, and again, I didn't intentionally do this, just kind of how my rankings fell. Another Texas team. So 8 is A&M, 7 is Texas, 6 is Texas Tech in our way too early playoff rankings. Y'all, if you're looking for who the next Indiana could be, I think it's Texas Tech. Because everyone's looking for the next Sig Netty, and can you find the right guy that can talk trash and brainwash his football team to be physical? Y'all, why Texas Tech could be the next Indiana is because they got the best general manager in all of college football in James Blanchard. Like, it's one thing to go out and scout 5 stars and know what a 4-star looks like. Like, James Blanchard is out here just finding diamonds in the rough and making them absolute ballers on Saturday in Lubbock. And to take it a step further, as much as they've built that roster with NIL and evals and all those things, you got a quarterback in Brendan Sorsby now that I think can truly take the governor off of what that football team was last season. Because we watched the Oregon game, and I made this point after the national title game, but I want to say it again. That Oregon game, it was very obvious. One team had a quarterback who could make things happen, and the other had a quarterback who had been dinged up all year long, didn't have a mobile element to him, and had, to also make matters worse, I would say one of the worst games of his career, just in terms of how he played. Brendan Sorsby in that game, I don't know if he wins the game for Texas Tech, but he makes it a lot more interesting. Texas Tech at least scores a few more points in that situation. The mobile element, the live arm, just a smooth athlete in space. He's going to be a high NFL draft pick next year. Will Brendan Sorsby transferring over from Cincinnati? Just a whole new ball game for Texas Tech in 2026. So I will not be shocked in the slightest if they win the Big 12 again. I won't be shocked in the slightest if they make a run in the college football playoff next year, and if they play for a national championship in 2026. I think that they have built to that kind of momentum right now in Lubbock, and love the coordinators as well with Mac Leftwich and Shill Wood, but I love where they're at now in Lubbock. Texas Tech hanging in at number 6 in our early rankings. Cato, where are you on the Red Raiders, man? Because I love the way they're built. I think they're that next team that isn't the flashy logo that could absolutely make some national noise when it comes to hoisting all the hardware. Love Joe McGuire. There's a lot I love about Texas Tech. Do you feel the same way?
I feel good about Texas Tech. I like what they have going on over there, JD. But with this exercise of having $100 to spend on a national champion to bet on, 0 of my dollars are going to Texas Tech.
Okay. All right.
I think, yes, I love Brendan Sorsby. He's an electric athlete. I love what he can do with his legs and give him that upside, like you're mentioning, some things that you didn't get last year at the quarterback position. When you lose Jacob Rodriguez, when you lose David Bailey, when you lose Romello Height, when you lose a big Lee Hunter in the middle of things, I think the odds of that defense being the same or better than last year are extremely low. I think that was what carried them last year. Truly, I don't think that's going to be able to carry them this year. And I think the Big 12 heavy bar is going to be something they're going to have to overcome year in and year out now, going into a conference where you do have more money than everyone. You might have a more talented roster than everyone. But when you get to the playoff, you're going to have to play some teams that are playing more of that level of ball week in and week out compared to what you have on your roster. So that worries me. The defense worries me. And the fact, if in this exercise, if I'm betting my hypothetical money, we haven't seen a Big 12 team win the national championship since 2005 when Texas was in the Big 12, and they're not there anymore. So for this exercise, I'm sorry, Texas Tech. I love what you have going on over there. I love what Cody Campbell's trying to do for college football at large, but $0 in this exercise for me going to Texas Tech as far as my national champion that I'd potentially bet on.
Jacob Rodriguez, absolutely a one-of-one. They will miss him. David Bailey, top 10, top 5 pick. We'll see what the draft says. Absolutely going to be difficult to replace. Lee Hunter, you mentioned. But, Cato, I think James Blanchard, man, I think they're going to roll out there. And especially in the Big 12 play, I think it'll be glaring their defensive trenches versus everybody else in the Big. I just think that gap is going to continue to widen. We'll see what it looks like in the playoff, but to your point, that's the tricky part with Texas Tech is how much can you reset yourself competitively when you play a Georgia, when you play an Oregon, when you play an Ohio State. Do you have an acclimation period? I think the front seven for Texas Tech last year more than held up there into the bargain against Oregon, but it was the quarterback where you're like, man, we got to have a little more. Got to have a little more here. So I'm gonna hold my stock on the front seven for Texas Tech. I think they're gonna be top 10 in college football yet again, top 5 in college. I think they're gonna be nasty yet again because James Blanchard scouting the big boys.
I think they're gonna be good, but they had like 2 of the 5 best defensive players in the country. Like I just don't. Can't see them. I just can't see them upholding that standard. It's too high. It'd be very Ohio State-esque of this year, where we're like, oh, you're losing all those NFL guys. Like, it's going to be hard to be that good again. And they ended up being better. It would be that surprising, I think, if they were able to uphold that standard. But you mentioned it. Even if they take a little bit of a step back, maybe Sorsby, what he brings to the table, can bridge the gap. And next thing you know, this team is just as good or a little bit better than last year. But in January, I'll fade him a little bit, sure.
There we go. I love it, man. I love it. That's where we are right now in the sport, man. It's all. I mean, we're calling our shot for 2020. Not calling our shot. We are making our rankings for 2026 when it comes to the way too early side of things. But Texas Tech hanging in there at number 6. At number 5, I have an asterisk next to this because I want to see who they land at quarterback. I have Miami at number 5, and my assumption here is that you land Darian Mensah. Now, obviously, there's a big brouhaha going on legally about getting him away from Duke and all these things about him getting in the portal. So I don't want to speak definitively on that, but I will just say this about Miami. What we saw from them on Monday night in their home stadium, on the field, I think should stick with a lot of people. Now you lose Bain, you lose Mawanoa. It's a big part of what they are as a culture and as a football team with what they do in the trenches. Understand that. They will miss that. However, I cannot shake the feeling we had walking around pregame and seeing the way that fan base in Miami was activated. And y'all, it wasn't even a thing where I thought Miami had the majority of the crowd. I thought Indiana showed up in a big way, and you should, playing for your first ever national championship for the season you had. But it feels to me like for the first time in a minute, the U is activated. Easy to get activated for a national championship game, I understand that, but I just think there's a certain staying power now that Mario Cristobal has worked the excitement into for the fan base out there in Coral Gables. And I think, too, every single year we've seen from Miami, whether it's Darian Mensah or somebody else, they continue to major in the things that win in college football. What I just said, trench warfare. You lose Mawanoa, you lose Bain. Guess what? You still got Jackson Cantwell. You're going to be in a good spot here going forward on the line of scrimmage on both sides of things for Miami. They stack the trenches. This is who Mario Cristobal is. Check. Okay, resources. NIL, not a problem for Miami. Check the box there. Quarterback, I think it'll be Mensah, just the way that I'm assuming things are going to break, but I don't know all the legalities of this whole thing, so we'll keep a distance from making any firm predictions there. But even if it's not Mensah, I think the offense overall, with what they've been on the line of scrimmage, should be good enough to hold serve, especially in the ACC. So I love the way Miami's built. I love the fact they've been the bully, I think, on the block physically, and will be more of that here in the ACC. The ACC is not going to be, I keep saying this, but unfortunately for the ACC, it's not going to be the most difficult conference in college football when it comes to who Miami has to go through. So as it stands right now, I got Miami as a top 5 team, and I will not be, keep saying I won't be shocked. We could see Miami in Vegas next year, y'all, just to keep it a buck now. Cato, Miami, the 6th best odds to win the national championship. Sitting there at 6, which after you play for a national championship, maybe Cane fans are trying to make sense of that. I think a lot of this is linked to the questions at quarterback as it stands right now. Of your remaining, it's $60 I think we got left? Is that right? 60? I think we're at 60. How much are you allocating to the good folks in the 305 to go finish the trip from what they had this year, get it done in Vegas, win the whole darn thing?
Okay, yeah, so I have $60 left. So my 5 Notre Dame dollars I will be giving to Miami if they have Darian Mensah.
Okay.
That's what I'm doing with those $5.
Okay.
Big part of things, the quarterback touches the ball every play, and I think Mensah does a lot of things better than Carson Beck, quite frankly. So I'd be willing to maybe reallocate some stuff. Maybe I take some of my LSU money, my A&M 5, maybe put it into Miami. Here's my question for you, JD, not to flip this back on you.
I love it.
After Miami goes on this playoff run, do you have more confidence in this team to not stub their toe along the way, a la Louisville, a la SMU, a la Syracuse, the previous years we've seen under Mario Cristobal? Because that's what's kind of like keeping me away from spending double-digit dollars here. I liked what they had up front this year, similar to Texas Tech. Are you going to have the Ruben Baines of the world, the real game changers, impact players who are playing amazing? Like we watched some of the national championship back at the hotel after the game just to see some of the broadcast. and that front seven stood out on film.
Disgusting.
Can they uphold that standard is a question for me, and can they play clean throughout the regular season in an ACC where they should be able to take care of business more often than not? Curious if after a playoff run, maybe we see some of those cobwebs get shaken off forward with Mario Cristobal. What do you say?
Some of this I assign to Miami progressing under Cristobal, and some of this I assign to college football is just a weird thing where we see let down across the board. My answer is yes. I tie that yes to the idea that you have a quarterback that's available for spring football. I wonder if Carson Beck gets spring ball. There's no way to know this. I wonder if he gets spring football if he doesn't throw as many picks against Louisville, if he doesn't make a poor decision against SMU. It's unknowable, like I just mentioned, but I think that came back to bite them a little bit in that middle part of the season because down the stretch, I know everyone's going to talk about that final pick that ended the year for them, but I thought he was phenomenal when it came to taking care of the football and playing within the confines of the system. He just looked so much more comfortable, and I think that comfort came from getting more reps within the system that he missed from spring ball and was on the pitch count during fall camp. So I think if they have a steady hand at quarterback, I think they're going to be more physical than most people. I think they've fixed the defensive issues they had during Cam Ward's days in the 305. So I'll go ahead and say yes while leaving some margin for, hey, you and I have watched many a Saturday where we think it's going to be a lower profile slate, or some people would say it's a lower profile slate, and then we see just landmines all over the place with it being the greatest thing that is college football variant. So the answer is yes, but I want to see some staying power at quarterback from spring up into game one.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of the critiques of Cristobal before this as well was some of his game management stuff, and I think he had valuable head coaching reps through this playoff on the road against A&M, managed that game well despite some of the special teams not going his way, playing a flawless game against Ohio State where he had 0 penalties. I think even like going head-to-head with a guy like Kurt Cignetti and kind of seeing the blueprint of playing to that level where you play mistake-free football, play within your confines. If Mario Cristobal's taken some of these lessons through the playoffs, and that's a part of his culture and the fabric of his coaching DNA now moving forward, I think I feel a lot better about that too. So maybe we move along here. Darian Benson's in the fold, and next thing you know, I'm giving more of a $10 to $15, $20 amount to a Miami, just trusting them to make it clean through the ACC. But how good is that game going to be against Notre Dame this year? I mean, it's going to be exciting. But right now, my $5. Joint custody between Notre Dame and Miami. Darian Mensah, we're giving the 5 there. Maybe no Darian Mensah, I lean Notre Dame because I think it'll be a similar path for both of those teams in national championship regards to getting to the playoff as far as playing clean through a whole regular season and then once in their tournament, just as fair of a shot as anyone else.
In South Bend too, dude. Ooh. Under touchdown Jesus. The Canes rolling in there. It'd be awesome. I don't want to age the video, so I'm going to speak tentatively here, but I'll just go for it. At the sense, no tentatively and go for it don't go together at all, but I'm just going to go for it here. If we get some spring propaganda of Darian Mensah, bro, in that indoor, just whipping it around, I'm like, okay,
yeah,
Miami's going back. Miami's going back to the Natty, baby. Like that's all. That's all I need to see. A la what we saw from Cam Ward in the indoor, just throwing the ball around a little bit. I get me hyped, dude.
Yeah,
get me hyped.
We might have to revisit this after spring practice because then some of my $5 might be reallocated different places. But right now, I feel a little bit more calm giving them the 5 split between them and Notre Dame.
I love it. I love everything about it. Moving on here into our final 4 teams of this top 10. I got Oregon at 4, rather. The Oregon Ducks under Dan Lanning. Been the punchline of a couple different jokes of the postseason. Oh, Ohio State in the Rose Bowl. Jeremiah Smith just scored again. Indiana just tore them to shreds. Y'all, both those teams won a national championship. Okay, so if you go ahead and do the math here, the last 2 years, the only teams that have beaten Dan Lanning have been the best teams in college football. And then the year before that was Washington and Kalen DeBoer, who beat them twice. They played for a national championship. So I get the thought process around, well, they got to be better in big games. You know what? You're 100% right. Oregon does have to be better in big games. But if you're looking at who they've lost to, it's not been ITT Tech and Le Cordon Bleu. Right? It's been some real wagons, some programs. I love the fact, obviously, you got Dante Moore coming back. What have we seen now be a blueprint to national championship caliber football? Experienced quarterback, line of scrimmage. As long as Dan Lanning is your head coach, you will have a line of scrimmage. Believe you me. Now you got a quarterback who's going to have north of 20 starts under his belt. I mean, north of 33 starts if he stays healthy under his belt when you play for a college football playoff game. That's going to make a difference. Every single year under Dan Lanning, Oregon has advanced further. From playing for a conference title to winning a conference title to making the playoff to winning playoff games to the doorstep of the national championship game. If that logic holds, Oregon will be playing for a national championship in 2026. I guess it'll be the year 2027, but we don't really care about all that. Semantics, pish-posh here and there. Dante Moore is good enough to get you there. Dan Lanning, I still believe, is one of the best coaches in the sport. I think the roster is never going to be a question for Oregon. It just comes down to can you win in those big moments. Now, for the first time, Dan Lanning has a quarterback that is familiar with those big moments, and you would like to think that's going to pay dividends here this upcoming season. So the Oregon Ducks, make the jokes you want to make. I get the whole, the O is the number of national titles they have. I mean, get your jokes off now. I'm just saying, Oregon continues to progress. Dante Moore's back. I love Oregon this year. I got them at 4, and it'll make more sense who we have ahead of them here in a second. But Oregon is very much so in the same vein of what Texas is of, hey, we are chips to the middle, all in. This is the freaking year, baby. Go get it for the shoe dog. Cato, $60 more or less still on the table here because we got that $5 still interchangeable between Miami and Notre Dame. How much money are you allocating to Oregon, who notably now is that third team tied for the second best odds in college football to win a Natty next year? Where's Cato's cash headed?
$15 for the Oregon Ducks.
Most yet.
$15
Most yet.
Most let. So
Okay.
spoiler alert here. Your top 4 teams, $15 are split evenly, and that's how I'm using my 60. So 15,
Smart.
15 to Oregon, 15 to the rest that we'll unveil here if you haven't seen JD's top 10 yet. And funny enough, I wasn't thinking about your top 10 when I was doing this, so we are aligned as far as I feel like the top teams. But with that in mind, I'll kind of rank where I would be most confident putting the money. Oregon is at my 4 spot out of these top 4 with the $15. These would be the last 15 I would spend. You just look at the teams ahead of them. I like a little bit more confident in the big game moments with the quarterbacks, but I do like that Oregon has progressed a little bit further in the playoff every year. Don't have to squint to see them taking another step next year and making it to that national championship game, maybe winning that national championship game. But you have to love the all-inness of it. You have to love the Dante Moore's last ride of it. Love him to continue developing as a guy who's 20 years old still has so much room to grow. If he levels up, I think we could learn very early in the season, like, okay, if he's looking a little bit more different even than this last season, then all of a sudden I think you feel a lot better about Oregon. But I love Coy Parrish having the torch passed to him from Thieneman to him as far as that bad, nasty white boy on the back end for Oregon. Feeling good about the Ducks, man. I like what they got going on over there. I'm with you. Dan Lanning gets a little bit more slander than he's accustomed to getting. But compared to the other teams here in the big gameness of it all, you've seen a little bit more from these other squads we're going to talk about here. But give me $15 for Oregon.
The Ducks, baby. Wouldn't that just be cinematic? You go to the West Coast for a national title game. It's out there in Vegas. We got the dice shaking and moving, and the Oregon Ducks roll out there, probably in some roulette themed uniforms with the game being in Vegas for a national championship.
Puddles on the sphere, maybe.
Take home the whole. Oh, my gosh.
A lot to do there for Oregon. A lot of potential there if they made it to the Natty. But, yeah, they would be my number 4 team, too. I'm fourth as much confident with my $15 as these other teams coming up here, too.
Feels like it might be a stars aligning thing there for the Ducks, but neither here nor there. At number 2, excuse me, I spoke out of turn. At number 3, the Indiana Hoosiers, the national champion Indiana Hoosiers now, mind you. I said this post-national title game, but I want to say it again. If you're like, too high for Indiana, I don't know if Sig can do it again. Do it again. He just did it 2 years in a row with the team he took over that won 3 football games when he got there. Do it again. If you don't believe in Kurt Signetti, the burden of proof is on you. Now, no Mendoza, okay, cool. I understand the thought process of, well, can they win a national title again, JD? We'll see. Josh Hoover, though, coming over from TCU, more production than Fernando Mendoza before he got there. Now, is he viewed the same in NFL circles? I don't know. But the point stands, with a Kurt Signetti football team, you are going to get physicality, discipline, composure, never too high, never too low. You see him on the sideline giving you the furrowed eyebrow. I mean, I'm just telling you now, Signetti, they won the national title this year. It was not a fluke. There is staying power at Indiana. They are once again attacking the portal. I would be very, very slow to write off the Hoosiers as a fun story, flash-the-pan, 2-year run. I don't think they're going anywhere. So Indiana, top 3 team in college football for me. And if you don't think so, I think the burden of proof is on you to prove such after they just won the national championship. And number 2, the Georgia Bulldogs. All right. Now, I said this post-night, but I want to say it again. Georgia, man, this wasn't supposed to be the year for them last year where they won the SEC. New quarterback, bunch of first and second year players, a lot of excitement, a lot of youth. Youth isn't really something that wins in college football. Ask Indiana. After winning a national championship with an average age of like 22, 23 years old, which is not against the rules, mind you. very much so in bounds, but for Georgia now, getting to have some more experience and experience in big spots like an SEC championship, like the college football playoff, I think that's going to do wonders for that Kirby Smart coached football team. Because I don't question Kirby Smart. I don't think anybody in their right mind should. I don't question Gunnar Stockton. I think he's earned as much after last season. So what kept Georgia from getting to where they would like to be long-term, I think, last year, was that inexperience, was that greenness in those big spots. That won't be the case next year, y'all. That secondary, we talked about being a bunch of young pups that played well towards the end of the year, but kind of got in the last game of the year against Ole Miss. I will be floored if they come out there next season and the problems that were the problems in 25 are the same problems in 26 on the back end. The physicality of Georgia will always be there. I think the edge for Georgia will always be there. They'll always be one of the most talented teams in the country. But Georgia, for me, next year is the year you really get excited about if you're a Georgia fan because of how good this year was, and it wasn't supposed to be that great of a year when it came to Georgia. So the Georgia Bulldogs, number 2 for my money here, ahead of 2026 in our way-too-early rankings. Cato, they have the 4th best odds to win it all. They're behind Indiana. They're behind other teams we talked about, as in Oregon, Texas, Notre Dame. Another team we'll talk about here in a second. Where are you at on the Dogs? I know you have $15 allocated to Georgia, but just thoughts on Georgia in general, because you were high on them this past season with them being your SEC champ, and go ahead, bada bing, bada boom. That was on the freaking money. Georgia in 2026, do they carry over? You already told us the dollar amount, but do they carry over the success from last year into this year and build upon that to the tune of a national championship?
Yeah, I'm high on Georgia this year. You talk about a team that flew close to the sun a couple times this past season, was a little young, was hard to kill, and kind of adopted that mantra. And I think being able to build on that with Kirby Smart at the helm and with a returning quarterback in Gunnar Stockton, who you just trust with your life. Yeah, like Georgia's going to be Georgia. They're the number 2 team for me as far as my $15 as well. I actually have Indiana as my 1 team. I think you got to be the best, you got to beat the best, and I think they have the belt right now, and I think they even have some room to improve given them having the number 2 transfer portal class, Josh Hoover being a little bit more accomplished as a passer. You bring in Nick Barsh, you bring in Turbo Richard, who's a guy who ran for 5 yards a carry at Boston College, which is a kind of accomplishment within itself. But Indiana would be my number 1 team. Georgia will be my number 2 team like you have here. And the Dogs with Kirby Smart being able to double down on what they did last year, I think is one of the scariest things in college football. They're my most allotment. The $15 notably is more than any other SEC team. That's me putting my neck out there as far as me believing in Georgia, even despite the things Texas did this offseason. Georgia Bulldogs, man, I think the SEC, the fact that it still ran through them this year says everything it needs to say. And I think the past 2 years being able to build on that, being SEC champs that were eliminated from the college football playoff, the chip is probably as big as it's ever been on Kirby Smart's shoulder here. And I can't wait to see him, Gunnar Stockton, and the boys really try to light it up. I'm only worried about Zachariah Branch. Is he coming back? I don't know if he's coming back or is declared. But the weaponry worries me a little bit because they got a lot of that out of Branch and some of those guys this year. But Gunnar Stockton on the 1s and 2s, man, I feel great about Georgia this upcoming season in the month of January right now.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of where we are right now in the calendar, you just kind of go off of things that you trust logically. There's a lot of logic that backs Georgia as being in the mix there at the very end. Returning quarterback, toughness, Kirby Smart with the best resume existing in college football, I would say. Probably coming off of his best coaching job in 2025 with them winning the SEC with a bunch of youth, which is funny. It was what we said was his best coaching job the year before this past year, and he just goes off and tops it in 2025. So I'm with you. I mean, they're going to be – I think that – it's always the year in Athens, Georgia, but this is a year that I think should have a different feel to it and should probably be a very all-in feel here when it comes to what the Dogs are down the stretch in this upcoming season. And hopefully for them now, finding themselves back on the West Coast where they won their last national championship in Los Angeles. Maybe they get it done again on the West Coast in Las Vegas.
Most definitely. I'm a Bark Boy this year, man. Let's do it, Georgia.
Boy.
This is the year. This is the year, Georgia. Let's do it.
Hey, Bark Boy. I love that commercial, dude. So good. Well, to round it out here, from the Bark Boys to the Buck Boys, the Ohio State Buckeyes to me. They got the best odds to win the national championship, and they just got so much coming back that it's hard for me to look past what that roster is. What I just said a second ago about Georgia, I think holds true for Ohio State. This part of the year, very much so about vibes and emotions in a big way, but when it comes to picking the team to be number 1 in the preseason, to me, I have to go back to what I believe logically. And logically, I got Julian saying in year 2 at Ohio State. Last year, you could tell they were trying to bring him along in that first part of the year. Second part of the year, kind of let him cook a little bit more. Third part of the year in the Big Ten title in the college football playoff, looked a little bit redshirt freshman-y. I don't think that'll be the case here when you give him the keys to the car in week 1 next season and let him totally take it off-road. You got Jeremiah Smith in year 3. You got Bo Jackson in year 2, Matt Patricia in year 2. Funny about Georgia is how they were kind of this green team in a lot of areas. So was Ohio State. New play caller in Heartline, new play caller in Matt Patricia. We'll see what happens on the play calling side of things for Ohio State as the year progresses next year. But the DC is the same. I mean, the defense had a bunch of new blood last season. They're going to be, I think, a little bit more edgy this upcoming year. Now you lose some key pieces, not disputing that. Arvell Reese, Caleb Downs, impossible to replace. But with all the juice that Ohio State has coming back, I'm not going to let what happened at the end of last season with the Indiana loss and the Miami loss get me off the scent of what Ryan Day is doing out there. Because Indiana and Miami, the only 2 losses Ohio State had, 2 teams that play for a national championship. And I understand there's this thought, too, in our mind of, well, Miami went out there and bullied Ohio State. Y'all, Miami in a lot of fronts, I don't want to say bullied Indiana, but they kept Indiana less than 3 yards of carry on the ground. I mean, got after Indiana to 3 sacks in the national title game. So I don't think I'm taking any shine off of Ohio State just because they lost by 3 points to Indiana and lost to Miami in the college football playoff off of some rest. Now, understand now, too, there's not like this, oh, good for Ryan Day, they lost to the teams that played for a national championship. That's not okay in Columbus. They expect to be the team that plays for and wins a national championship every single year. That's what you sign up for when you commit to be a Buckeye, whether you're on the staff or a player. So the standard isn't dipping by any stretch of the imagination, but all they have on that roster, what I saw for the better part of 11 games this season, 12 games this season, I trust the Buckeyes to be right back where they were at the end of this past season and be in a spot to go play for a national championship, much like they were positioned to when the playoff started as the number 2 overall seed. So trusting the Buckeyes, trusting Sayin, trusting the pieces. It's going to be all about those big moments now, and you would like to think Julian Sayin more ready for those big moments now with a few under his belt. Cato, got the Buckeyes at 1, man. You have them, it sounds like, in that top 3 range. You got $15 on them to win the national championship here by nature of how we're divvying up the cash. Final thoughts on Ohio State here as we round out this top 25.
Yeah, they would be at my 3 spot. So I'd go Indiana 1, Georgia 2, Ohio State 3, Oregon 4. That would be it. Because we do expect better things out of Julian Sayin this upcoming season, but he's going to have to show me. And I think Josh Hoover's seen plenty more snaps than him. I think Gunnar Stockton I trust a little bit more in the big moments relative to Ohio State. And again, these are top teams in the country. This is January, so we're splitting hairs.
Sure.
Here, but I don't like the wide receiver depth they lost in the portal. Obviously, you bring Jeremiah Smith back, but Carnell Tate to the draft, and then pretty much everyone else that was up there in their room is going to be gone. Caleb Downs, Arvell Reese, Sonny Styles, very hard people to replace. I trust Ohio State to replace them more than anyone, and the fact that their defense got better this past season, I don't think their defense has any limitations. It's just a little bit of splitting hairs at the quarterback position, and I honestly think that Gunnar Stockton with the ability of his legs, Josh Hoover with the experience, that's why I give them a slight nod. And they beat Indiana, quite frankly, or Indiana beat them in that Big Ten title game, and I think they have to take the belt back from them in the Big Ten if they want to prove to me that they should be ranked any higher than the Hoosiers, quite frankly. So I like what Indiana has a little bit more going as well in the portal with replenishing some of the stuff over there. So it's a slight edge, but I'm putting Ohio State 1 in the country. I'm not gonna knock you for that. I'll have to squint to see that happening. You know what I mean? But I'd give Indiana and Georgia a little bit more of a nod, just by a slight edge compared to the Buckeyes.
Yeah, hey, it's January. This January. Like we keep going back to spring propaganda. Just one clip of Julian Sayin ripping a deep one.
I'm not worried about that.
In a non-contact jersey with the shield
that,
and Jeremiah Smith. Sounds like you might be talking about Josh Hoover
over
Julian Sayin.
I'm worried about big games. I'm worried about big games. I'm not worried about Julian Sayin being accurate at practice, accurate against Minnesota. I'm worried about him when he plays Texas again. Very interesting how him and Arch will kind of have like a dichotomy of trying to get their lick back in that game because neither of them really played great in that game. But if he's looking sharp against Texas, if he's looking sharp against the Indianas of the world and the big-time teams, I think they have Oregon on their schedule as well this upcoming season. I'm going to just need to see more big-game stuff out of Julian. I know how you look against Michigan State and Minnesota, But Josh Hoover, I think he's just played more ball, and Gunnar Stockton is a little bit more of a steady hand in those big moments. I mean, he got baptized in the Sugar Bowl, his first start, plays Texas in the SEC Championship, and plays well in that game. Like, I think he is just more conditioned to play well in those moments. So Julian, there's a little bit more to be desired, I guess I'm saying, with Julian in the big moments. And when it's the one through three here, you have to kind of split hairs. And that's where I split mine, is with Julian playing big in the big games and putting up more than a couple points against Miami in a playoff game. And
Tiago Splitter.
A couple points against Indiana.
I will just say this, so I can hear the Buckeye fans in the comment section. Josh Hoover played a lot of ball. Didn't play any in the Big Ten.
Hey.
And play any conference title games. We'll see.
It's just, hey,
we'll see.
I think the experience showed itself in both of the college football playoffs we saw.
It did.
The last two 12-team playoffs, it's not necessarily always the sexiest name, but whoever's played the most snaps, I think, has been a steady hand for their teams, and then whatever's surrounding them has taken care of business too.
Completely
so
fair.
Complete team thing, man. Complete team game.
Do not disagree in the slightest.
Am I getting excited for 2026 football season?
Dude,
I'm kind of pumped.
It's gonna be awesome. Dude.
I'm kind of pumped for these guys to prove it already. It's January,
dude,
so
there's a lot of phenomenal shows out there in the space. I don't know how many are riffing right now about Julian Sain and Josh Hoover in next year's Big Ten. I'm just saying, y'all. If you want to be a college football sicko, this is your freaking place. Cato, tremendous stuff as always, man. Tremendous stuff as always. We're going to have to check in, too, with Cato and get some of his he kind of tipped his hand there with his rankings, but if you're accustomed to this show or you're an avid listener of this show in the podcast space as well, then we got the huddle for you now, and that's coming. Don't you worry about a thing. Y'all, we appreciate the heck out of y'all. We've got an hour and a half already, and it is, like I said, the December 26th of college football, with the college football playoffs just wrapping up a mere few days ago. With that being said, college football does not stop. We don't either. So for Cato on the ones and twos, for myself, JD PicKell, we appreciate y'all. We love y'all. We're going to keep this party rolling, and we will see y'all